You're listening to the Level 5 podcast, featuring wide-ranging conversations on the subjects that matter in business and management.
On May 21st, Level 5 Strategy introduces Business Women of Influence's first speaker session featuring Linda Hasenfratz. We've divided up the top highlights from the events into two parts. You're listening to part 2 now, highlighting entrepreneurship and challenges Linda has overcame.
It really starts with, again, that basic idea of balance, that we run our business to the benefit of our customers, our employees, and our shareholders. And, you know, a lot of companies think that their reason to be in business is just, you know, returns to shareholders, but that's not how we think. Like, we think that our employees are as important as our shareholders, and our customers are as important as both of those as well. So believing that means that supporting the communities that we're in is directly impacting our employees, right? Because that our employees are living in those communities. So whatever we can do to try to support the communities that we're in is going to support our employees. So it's part of that basic philosophy, which is why we feel like it's kind of woven into the business. And the example that you gave is actually a great example of weaving philanthropy into your business needs. So a few years ago, we established a program at Western. We put $5 million towards a scholarship program at Western. It was a combination of money from Linamar and our family, so it wasn't just Linamar, to support more women getting into the dual degree engineering and Ivy business. Because similar to my own experience, which has a science technology aspect and a business aspect from a education side, I think that it's a really powerful combination. And although we're seeing, you know, great representation of women in business schools and a growing, for sure, representation of women in engineering and science, actually, you know, at levels that we've never seen before, which is pretty exciting. We didn't see as many in the dual degree. So I really like the idea of trying to attract more women into the dual degree program. So we set up this scholarship that will support 10 women per year. We pay half their tuition and also give them a job in the summers of third and fourth year, it's a 5-year program, and a job when they graduate. And why I like this is because number one, for some of the women, the money was important. For some, the job was important, and for others, it's both. But at the same time, not only are we helping young women to get into fulfilling, exciting careers and an education that will lead them to fulfilling and exciting careers, and hopefully entrepreneurship and starting their own businesses as well. So we're kind of helping more broadly women into being entrepreneurs and into the whole STEM field. But we're also helping to grow our own representation of women leaders the leaders running our plants and in leadership at Linamar came from the technical side, whether it be engineering or, you know, from the shop floor. So, you know, there's a real business benefit to that, because I'm a big believer in the benefit of diversity and having diverse teams that, are going to approach problems, you know, naturally differently. And also that, you know, if you've got a diverse team, it means that you're picking from the entire talent pool, right? Like you've got double the chance of getting amazing talent. So I'm a big believer in diversity, and I wanted to increase diversity in the company. So we're achieving that with that program, but at the same time, we're helping, you know, women into new careers, because of course they're not all going to end up with us, but that's okay. We're helping to, you know, create this funnel of, you know, hopefully women entrepreneurs who are going to do some exciting things. Some of the leadership behaviors that we look for are leaders who are passionate. They're, excited about what they're doing, and they can relay that passion to others. So, they're naturally motivated by virtue of their passion. So, for sure, we're looking for that in leaders. We like leaders who are good planners. I talked earlier about the importance of putting a great plan together when you're trying to come in and achieve something. So we want people who can drive good planning, and then leaders who execute, who get things done, right? It's not enough to put a plan together. You need to get it over the finish line. So we want leaders who can do that. We want leaders with edge and acumen in terms of their decision making. So people who make good decisions, who have a good, sense for, a situation, and can read a situation and a market and their people, and make insightful decisions that can manage in a crisis like we're in now, that can be calm in a crisis, and a rock for their people to help them through difficult situations. So that all kind of wraps up into edge and acumen. It takes a while to explain that one. And communication, obviously we want people who are good communicators, whether it be verbally or in written form. They've got to be able to communicate in order to motivate. They can't just be passionate. Have to be able to turn that into words to motivate people. And finally, leaders who care. We want leaders who care about their people. We think that care is a really important and not often talked about aspect of leadership, that if you show you really care about your people, they're going to follow you anywhere, right? Because they know that you've got their back. And I think that's really important to have in leadership. So yeah, those are the leadership behaviors that we look for. Yeah, I mean, I think that, again, it kind of comes back to what I was talking about earlier about care and showing people that you care about them. That is good leadership, I think. And, so I don't think that necessarily shows that you're vulnerable. It just shows that you care about them and you care about what's happening to them. And I think that you need in a crisis to show that that you have a plan, that, like we were talking, the facts, here's what we know, here's what we don't know, because you don't always know everything. And it's okay to say that. It's okay to say, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but this is what we think. And here's the direction that we're going to go in. And when we have a better understanding, we'll be able to, have a clearer idea of the direction. And it's okay to do that. It doesn't, nobody expects you to know everything, but I think it's important to share the facts that you do know, and that you care about what's happening to them, and the fact that they're laid off and they're not, working, or that they're scared because there's virus is going around, and what's that mean to them and to their families. And I think it's important to show them that you care about that, and again, important to just keep the communications up. Like, I've been, in the early weeks, sometimes I sent more than one communication a week. Like, there was times when I sent them every 3 or 4 days. I was sending another note out to our entire employee base. But as the weeks and months have gone on, I've tapered that off a bit. I was doing it weekly, pretty consistently, and I've kind of backed off to every couple of weeks now, just because there's less new news to share. So, but I think people really appreciate the information, because they want to know what's going on. They want to know, like, does anybody have COVID-19 at Linamar, and what's happening with them, and what's happening with our customers, and what's happening with the markets, and what are our plans, and what's happening with us financially, and, like, do I need to be worried? And so we've tried to communicate that really regularly. Here's what's happening with our people, with our customers, and financially, and here's what we're doing for the communities. It's really been those 4 blocks that we've communicated all along. I think that any time you fail, you learn something from that. So you shouldn't be afraid of failing, because there's always going to be something you learn that you can, next time do a better job. So failure is rarely fatal, right? And, really it's just it's a learning opportunity. And I think that you take what you can from it, you shake the dust off and get over it and get back to it. So for a long time at Linamar, we've had this 24-hour rule. We stole it from a coach. He was the winningest coach in the football league. Actually, he died not long ago. I think his name was Don Shula. And he had this rule that it was a 24-hour rule. And if you won, you had 24 hours to celebrate your win. And that was awesome. But then, get back to work, because just because you won yesterday doesn't mean you're going to win tomorrow. And similarly, if you lost, okay, take 24 hours to be sad about that, but then shake it off and get back to it, because just because you lost yesterday doesn't mean you're going to lose tomorrow. So, I think that's good advice. So there's often a lot of good analogies between sport and business. And I think that's a good way to think about things, that it's okay to fail. You just learn from it and take that learning to do it differently next time. I had probably in my early years at Linamar, when I was telling you I was moving around a lot to a lot of different positions. And I found that quite challenging because, every few months I'd find myself kind of back at square one, not knowing how to do the job, brand new team of people who all were kind of like, oh, who's she? And she's Frank's daughter. And, not knowing yet that I was willing to work hard and be, a member of the team and put in the hours and was capable and all the rest. So I had to kind of prove myself over and over again. And that was challenging at the time. But I think that, with every team that I went over, with every job that I figured out and learned, I became stronger. I became more knowledgeable and capable and more confident in my own abilities. And so it just made me stronger in the end. So, those challenges are going to come, but when you conquer them and you get through them, you get stronger from it. And, you can look back with pride at, having done that.
Thank you for listening in on top highlights from the Business Women of Influence event with Linda Hasenfratz. Stay tuned for future speaker events and workshops to come, brought to you by Business Women of Influence from Level 5 Strategy.
Thanks to you, our listeners, for tuning in to Strategy Lounge, the Level 5 podcast. To learn more about our work, please visit level5strategy.com.